Set.
Sounds of feed.
And action.
Can you share the story of how you began your journey towards Zoho One?
Sure. Michael Hopwood, CEO and founder of Customer Consulting Group, or CCG. I've been in the business applications and specifically CRM space for over 20 odd years. We were a general consulting firm at the start, but then progressed fairly quickly into becoming a Zoho implementation partner. Right now, we've got offices in Sydney and Melbourne, and we're a small team, but we're really specialists. We have a broad range of skill sets across nearly the entire Zoho ecosystem. A lot of our history comes from CRM, but we've delved into all of the other applications: desk, people, recruit, sign, flow, forms, the list goes on. And we love the platform. So I went and did a market scan and I came across Zoho, but specifically I came across Zoho One. It was really new in the market at that time. And I went through and I took a look at all of the key features and functions and capabilities which are provided and found that it was phenomenal value. In fact, I couldn't come in close with anything else in the market. We do actually have a real special focus on not-for-profit organisation and cause-based organisations. And part of the reason for that is we've got a whole program where we actually provide discounted services, we provide platforms to help those particular organisations promote their causes as well. And so as a result, we do have a reasonable number of organisations which are in that space. We do have customers across the board. We've got retail-based organisations, community sports-based organisations, we've got real estate, car manufacturers, software organisations. So we break our approach down into three separate parts. The first is what we call envisioning. It's more commonly known as scoping and analysis. And that's where we go through, we really look to understand the requirements of each organisation in a lot more detail. Now, within that, we have a few different paths which organisations can go. We can just capture that at a fairly high level. We can go down to a sort of medium level where we draw out user stories and acceptance criteria, or we can build very detailed specifications. Off the back of that, regardless of which way we go down, we put forward a statement of work to outline what the investment and the timelines associated with that will be. Once that's gone through various levels of approval, the customer then engages us to go and do the delivery side of things. We call it build and deliver. And that's basically where we're taking all of the solutions which we put forward and then we build them all up and deliver that. So the last part of our build and deliver phase is around the training. Now we offer a whole range of different sorts of training. We do end user training, power user training, administrator training, developer training. It all depends on what the organisation wants to take on board for their own management. So we met with a customer, we went through their requirements and started to formulate a solution design to address their needs. So this organisation was utilising three primary tools in the organisation. They had Sugar CRM, they had Footprints for ticketing, and they had SAP for their finances. Individually, those applications did have some integration with each other, but it wasn't great. There was lots of problems associated with it. But also specifically inside each application, there was a lot of poor user experience. The salespeople were regularly complaining about what Sugar CRM could do from a quoting perspective. The team that was utilising the ticketing, which wasn't just your support team, it was actually across the entire organisation utilising this ticketing. We're having lots of challenges with the interface, the ability to get data out, lots of challenges with duplicated data inside the system and across the various tools as well. And really just struggling to get a holistic view of what their customers are. So that was ultimately one of the main drivers as to why they started to look at not just a CRM platform, but a whole of business solution, which was Zoho One. So as a software organisation, they have lots of different items or SKUs that they're providing to organisations as part of their sales process. And there's lots of business rules associated as to which particular items can be sold with which other ones, what are the pricing rules associated with it. This organisation also sells to multiple countries around the world. And so what they were finding challenges with within the Sugar CRM environment is that there was no real streamlined way of aiding the salesperson from getting the right information on the quote. And so what would happen is that the salespeople would go through, they'd build up a quote, and then later on that would have to go through multiple iterations of reviews and approvals before determining, is this something which we can actually offer to an organisation? And what's the right pricing associated with that? And so due to the limitations that were experienced inside Sugar CRM, the process of getting the sales quotes out to customers was taking a lot longer than it needed to be, and there was a lot more hand-holding along the way. which is obviously a cost to the business. So they really wanted to streamline this process and look at ways to improve that. And so naturally, the product configuration capabilities inside Zoho CRM lent itself to address those concerns. Another problem that they had was with Footprints, the ticketing system. Now, this organization utilized ticketing across the entire organization. So not just for customer support, but also for their implementation team, their training team, their accounts team, etc. And so one of the challenges that they had with Footprints is around the ability to have data move across different departments. And so there's scenarios where a support incident might come into their support team, but then that is requiring the involvement of other teams within the organization. And so there's challenges associated with getting that data from one area to another. The user interface is extremely cumbersome. It's very old and antiquated, which meant that whenever there is a time when one of their employees would need to go and deal with a customer, they're not able to get the information that they need at the right point in time. On top of that, through to the integration with other systems, whether it be Sugar CRM or SAP, there was limitations in there, which meant that you can't always rely on the data that's in there. And so there's a lot of processes which were heavily baked into Footprints, but without having that reliance on the quality data in there, it really becomes a challenge to make sure you're giving the right experience to your customers. So look, they actually had 360 different business requirements across 8 different departments. And so there was a whole host of different capabilities which we needed to introduce. So naturally the Zoho One suite lent itself to a lot of those capabilities. We utilized CRM, we utilized marketing automation, we utilized survey, Zoho Projects, Zoho Sign, Zoho Flow, Zoho Forms, I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones in there as well. I think we had 16 different Zoho applications involved in the initial solution design. On top of that, we look to supplement those with some additional capabilities by things like Z Portals, the third-party add-on tool to open up capabilities through to their customers and through to their partners. We also look to do some integration with SAP Business One. So given this is primarily around providing a 360-degree view of a client and streamlining a whole bunch of processes, it was natural that CRM was going to be at the center. And so we've developed a whole range of configurations, customizations, business processes inside CRM. But then we've extended that into Zoho Desk, given the high volume of support requirements that come through and enhancement requests that they get, as well as just general processing inquiries. So for example, the accounts team utilize Zoho Desk for managing all of the internal inquiries about invoicing. On top of that, the implementation team are utilizing Zoho Projects. Now, we've actually extended the integration between Zoho CRM and Zoho Projects by our own custom capabilities. We've developed I think it's quite a nifty little architecture whereby off the back of a quote converting to a sales order, we then understand which particular work breakdown structures are required within an overall project, and then we go and we create a Zoho project, and then depending on the specifics for each line item, we'll then add certain tasks inside Zoho projects so that there's a nice automated way of building up a very complex and very detailed work breakdown structure inside Zoho projects. We then have components whereby when certain tasks are automatically completed via the teams utilizing Zoho projects, that automatically goes and creates certain tickets inside Zoho Desk. So we've extended the integration in there. Now, a lot of the time for our integration, we actually leverage Zoho Flow. It's one of my favorite tools. It goes in, it means that we can send data from point A to point B, and not just Zoho applications, but other applications as well, without writing any code. From a marketing perspective, we've integrated Zoho marketing automations, and so that is helping the organization go and do outreach. In order to facilitate that, we've done a whole bunch of additional configurations in CRM to help with the profiling of customers to ensure that the right people are going to get the right message at the right time, utilizing the marketing automation tools. On top of that, there is a whole host of information which the organization needs to capture from their customers. And so therefore, the use of Zoho Forms has been quite integral. In fact, with this particular project, it's quite a large project. It's one which is taking several months to go and build. But the organization was so keen to utilize Zoho One from the outset that what happened was we stood up some Zoho Forms to streamline the process of getting that data from customers into a structured format. It has some automated notifications and things like that. And so that was actually the first thing they went live with Zoho Forms. And so as we've been going through and building up the system, we just changed a little bit more, introduced a little bit more integration, a few more business rules and things like that. Doing things like exposing data from CRM into the Zoho Forms using the native integration between the two applications, and the customers really loving that. On top of this, we do have things like that they're utilizing Microsoft Entra for their identity management. And so therefore, we use Zoho Directory to go through it and integrate in with Entra to assist that process of making sure that the right users have the right access to the right applications. And then because this process was also about decommissioning a couple of products, decommissioning Sugar CRM, decommissioning Footprints, we needed to get that data inside CRM and then also inside Zoho Desk. And so what we did there was we leveraged Zoho Data Prep. Again, newish tool, but we really love it. It's the way which it goes through and highlights where there is data inconsistencies and allow us to massage that data to get the information into the end tool. It's fantastic. On top of this, we're also leveraging Zoho Work Drive to store a whole bunch of files and provide sharing through the organization in a structured and secure manner. We're utilizing Zoho Writer to go through and build up a whole host of really quite complex proposals and things like this, which are all dynamic in nature based on what's the data inside a quote. And other forms of activities. So if there's cancellation requests, depending on the particular products that people need to cancel, then we dynamically build up these documents leveraging the capabilities of Zoho Writer. And then we integrate Zoho Sign to go and send those out to the customer to get the digital signature, have a legally binding approval of those particular documents, all automatically sent back into Zoho CRM so that again, we're providing that 360-degree view of everything associated with that customer. So one of the biggest challenges we had was actually to do with the SAP integration. And part of it was really due to the limitations that SAP imposed. So typically with an integration, we'd like to send the data between the two systems as quickly as possible as opposed to doing big batch runs. And so with Zoho, we can have a trigger in Zoho and send information straight away, which is great. It means that the customers are receiving that data instantaneously almost. However, with SAP, we don't get that same capability. So therefore what we needed to do was build up a whole solution design which basically monitors for data changes on a scheduled basis and then goes through and then sends that through to a middleware component, which then checks to see whether there's been other changes inside Zoho. If so, then we process it through. If not, we reject those changes. And so the architecture which we'd originally hoped to build with the integration, we had to adapt. We had to make some changes along the way to ensure that the customer is still getting the data between the two systems, and it can be a bi-directional synchronization. However, just not as efficiently as we'd ideally like. But ultimately, I think we've got a good solution which can help the customer with a whole bunch of needs. So the feedback we've had has been really, really positive. What we do through our implementations is really involve the customer as much as they like. And this particular organization has really wanted to become heavily involved. So for example, one of the things that we did was we developed a canvas view to help them along the lines of see what the capabilities are. They loved that, and they said, can you provide us some training on how to go through it and further develop the canvas views? So we did that, and now they've taken that on board and they've further developed the canvas views to meet in with their requirements. So for this customer, we're looking at some of the internal capabilities, so internal operations. So things like Zoho People for their HR management and Zoho Recruit for obviously their recruitment capabilities. And so these are things which don't necessarily evolve around the 360-degree view of a customer, and hence that's why they've been put forward into a future component there. We're also going to start to explore things like integration with telephony, i.e. Zoho Voice. And so how we can get the screen pops, so when a customer calls, for that to show the customer inside CRM and or Zoho Desk. On top of that, we're also looking at things where potentially maybe the use of Zoho Q Engine. Because this is a software company, they do a whole bunch of their own testing and quality assurance and things like this. And so maybe Zoho Q Engine could be utilised again for their internal processes to help them build the best product for their customers. We are a complete Zoho house internally at our organisation. And so as a result, our team have constantly evolved and learnt more about the platform, which means that we can then go provide that additional advice and consulting experience to our customers. And so we're big believers of the Zoho One all-in-one business application suite.
Got that, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. So,